Thank you all so much for coming to the launch party for issue 29. I'm Trish Murphy, and I'm the founding editor of Superstition Review. And in 14 and a half years now, 29 semesters of creating issues, I've mentored over 450 students through all the steps of running a literary magazine. I am so lucky that this has been what I do for the past 14 years. When people ask me the most challenging part of my job, I always say that because I oversee each issue and I'm teaching at the same time, it's like relearning how to be a magazine editor every single semester, because I have to explain it in a way that is understandable every single time. So I am so grateful to all of my staff for their patience as I continue to improve in how to communicate all of the complex steps of creating a national literary magazine. I'm also so grateful for every relationship that I make, especially with my students. I love maintaining relationships with students. So to all of you, please keep in touch. Raise your hand if you're graduating. Yeah, all right. So I always love to hear from you. And I especially love to hear from you when you want a letter of recommendation or a reference. I love to give glowing references where I tell the employer that they need to throw away all the other resumes. So what's nice is that since we've worked so closely together, I have really specific knowledge about you and your skills. And so I can write great letters. So please keep in touch. And to all our contributors, we are so dedicated to promoting you. We're so grateful for you, and we want to promote you throughout the rest of your career. So anytime you have any good news, a publication in a journal or an award or a new job or something like that, send it to us and we'll put it on the blog and across our social networks. We have 60,000 readers globally. And so we always love to hear from you. Before I go into the program, I just want to thank my dean. We have a new dean for the College of Integrative Sciences and Arts, Joanna Grabsky, and my department head. They've been instrumental in keeping this magazine alive when so many literary magazines and artistic endeavors are crumbling due to budget. Our university has made a commitment to this magazine and to the students and to the contributors so that we are able to absolutely thrive. And I'm really especially thrilled with issue 29 because I feel like it's one of our strongest issues to date. We've got, even when we were looking through the submissions, there were so many times when we wanted to gobble up pieces where we just wanted to send an acceptance immediately. And that was just a thrill. It was so thrilling to curate the work in this issue. So we're going to hear from each of our section editors: art, fiction, interviews, nonfiction, and poetry. They are the editors who curated each of the sections. And it was such a great joy to work with you all. It's always so much fun to have our meetings and to have those interactions where we talk about the work and where we get to share our opinions. I just had so much fun. Ashley also found Jenny Day, who is the artist that we're featuring on our cover. So Ashley, thank you so much for that. Sometimes we go out of submissions pool to get our cover image, and that's what we did this time. Ashley found Jenny Day, who is, I'm just such a fan. But I also want to highlight the intense behind the scene work of our other interns. So Ajay Mitchell has been our advertising coordinator. So Ajay has done not only our newsletters, designed the newsletters and written the articles. Ajay also organized ad exchanges with 58 other national, really, really good magazines, The Journal, Willow Springs, great magazines, set up ad exchanges. I'm seeing a lot of those emails coming in now, and they're so thankful to you for reaching out to them. And that's just been a great process. I so appreciate that. Our bloggers, Claire Van Doren and Taylor Dilger, have been amazing. So if you go to our blog, you're going to see posts that Taylor had built in WordPress. She learned it so quickly. I don't think I've seen someone learn WordPress that quickly and surpass my knowledge of it so soon that all I had to do was go in and schedule them. So that was so wonderful. And what I love is that Taylor also bylined several blog posts. She did interviews with some contributors. And so I'm so proud of Taylor for that work. And Taylor will be our student editor-in-chief in the spring or in the fall. Terry, oh my gosh, Terry built the issue, which is no small feat, and a whiz at HTML. Some of the poetry in this issue, we loved it so much, but the formatting, right? So getting the poems to look right, especially, was a challenge. And Terry was just right on top of everything. Thank you so much. Kate and Angelique were our social media managers. And I have to say, we're at 10,000.9 followers on Twitter. We need like 50 more to get to 11. So please tell your parents to follow us on Twitter. Kate and Angelique just did an amazing job across all of our networks, and we're on 8 social networks. So that's saying a lot. So Facebook, Goodreads, Instagram, Twitter, Tumblr, if you remember Tumblr. Just great job. And then Can, our student editor-in-chief for the semester. It has been such a joy to work with you. And you have done really a wonderful job forming a community, and also forming a community among the interns and trainees, but also with our guest lecture series. And I'm so proud of you for that. And I'm so grateful. And I'm also glad that you have that in your portfolio as you move forward to go on for your master's degree in communications, which I'm also so proud of. So Can, I'm going to pass it over to you.
Yes, so thank you, Trish. Hi, everyone. My name is Can. Like Trish mentioned, I'm the student editor-in-chief of issue 29. Thank you so much for giving us your time and support. We really treasure our audience, and we always have you in mind when we're creating our issues. And soon you'll hear from our editors on the messages they discovered and wish to convey to you all when they're working with our wonderful contributors. And our contributors for this issue created their work from across the United States, as well as Puerto Rico, Italy, Singapore, and Australia. Through writing and art, they introduced us to new perspectives while showing us the similarities in our shared humanity. So thank you, each and every one of our contributors, for allowing Superstition Review the honor of presenting your truths and dreams to the world. Of course, I have to thank our talented undergraduate staff, our section editors who created work from countless submissions and gave life to issue 29. Our content coordinator built every seamless page of the issue with care. Our blog editors, social media managers, and our advertising coordinator tirelessly connected with our audience and our partners to shine the spotlight on our staff and our contributors. And the staff worked alongside ASU faculty advisors who generously gave us their time and their wisdom. And finally, I have to thank the person who brought us all together, our founding editor, Trish Murphy. Every single Superstition alum that I've spoken to has nothing but praise for her, which is a testament not only to how she helps her students grow, but also how she sets us up for future success. And for the past year and a half, I've witnessed strength, empathy, and resilience from Trish as we face all kinds of changes and challenges. So I really hope, Trish, that you remember how much we treasure you as a poet, a mentor, and just an extraordinary human being. And now I'd like to introduce our guest presenter, William J. Cobb. He is a brilliant author, essayist, and short fiction writer who directed the MFA program at Penn State. We have the honor of featuring his story, My Wife the Unicorn, in issue 29, and we're so excited to hear more from him about his work. So everyone, please join me in welcoming William J. Cobb.
Well, hi, everybody, and thank you so much for the invitation to speak to you today and for taking the story. I have to say it's a personal favorite of mine. And we all, you have stories you write and you get published, and some stand out more than others. And in particular about this story, that it's kind of a love story for my wife, and that makes it close to my heart. One of the, but before I get into the story itself, I wanted to touch on something that Trish was mentioning about your magazine, that I'm old enough to remember that back in the day when online zines first started, we all kind of considered them a ghetto part of publishing, that, oh no, we want to save all of our good stories for the print magazine. And personally, I think it's flipped the other way around, because I've had 5 or 6 stories published in the last couple of years, and the print journals, I can't tell my friends to go read it for free anymore. You have to actually buy the copy. And the Antioch Review had been a supporter of my work, and I like it very much, but they don't have the online copy unless I think you can pay for it. But I never want to tell my friends to, pay for to read my story. And now the online journals like Superstition Review just have so much greater visibility and ease, and it's taking advantage of this change in our culture and our, technological capabilities. This particular story, My Wife the Unicorn, started out as a joke, and I was laughing about unicorns, and it's like, what's the deal with the unicorns? It's just a horse with a horn on its head. And then I added, I want to write a story called My Wife the Unicorn. And we laughed, and it was just a joke. But then it kind of took like a seed, started to grow in my mind. And people who read the story, you'll see that there's kind of a political angle to it. And I never would sit around with the idea I'm going to sit down and write a political story, but you can't deny the world all around you. And part of the inspiration of the story in the background is that incidents like I've been going to this great little coffee shop that's kind of in a rural place between places where I drive. And sure, there's very conservative people who are there. The coffee shop's pretty cool, but a lot of people who go there are very conservative. And I noticed when I was wearing a mask, how people are glaring at me. And it was just like animosity and, hatred. And it's like, hey man, I'm just trying to stay healthy. I'm not that strong of a political person, but that was what's in the background. It kind of imagines the Civil War too. And I like to think of it as my own little version of Gone with the Wind, only it's much shorter and it's not a tragedy. I think of it as a comic story, and there are some serious elements to it, but I have I think kind of a comic view of life, and I like to look at the humorous side of it as much as I can. And so there is some seriousness, but I hope a lot of comedy as well. So I meant to track the time, but I'll just read from the very beginning of the story that will kind of give the atmosphere and the mood of the story to begin with. It's kind of not quite Act One, but it establishes the ground rules of the story. My Wife, the Unicorn. After the vaccine, in the early days of Civil War II, people changed. Some became so fearful and soft-spoken, you couldn't hear them anymore. Skinny and furtive, you'd see them slink by you in Walgreens or Trader Joe's, buying herbal tea and organic rice crackers, maybe some brie or Gouda. Those were the whisperers. They'd been shut in for so long, they forgot how to talk. They would text each other in public places, even when sitting side by side. You might pass them in a public park sitting on a bench and not even know they were there. They still wore masks even after the pandemic, believing it was only a matter of time before the next one, that the air was trouble. They claimed the government lied to us all the time about viruses and so much more. So who can you trust? They seemed to shrink and became hunched over, not open their mouths wide to speak, quote, NPR if you asked them anything. I felt sorry for them, tried not to move suddenly or speak too loudly when they were around. I didn't want to frighten them away. They were the good ones, at least. Others went the other direction. Lost hair, sprouted scales on their necks, grew long claws. Reptiles, we called them, reps for short. At first, they wore collars and hats and mostly trimmed their nails. We'd all become accustomed to pandemic haircuts, so their scruffiness was seen as something of a retro look, nostalgia for the bad old days of no one getting a real haircut, of spiky dudes and long beards, or hearkening back to some bygone times of hirsute happiness, hipness. But scales, that's a horse of a different color. How can you trust a lizard man to serve your burger or change your oil? Whisperers shied away from businesses that hired reps. A backlash set in. The reps grew tired of hiding their claws and scales, hiding their opinions, and had anger management issues. Reps were full of hate and proud of it. They staged rallies and burned health food stores, shouting and shaking their fists, preaching rep power and harassing people in Whole Foods for no good reason. They shouted at anyone who looked at them twice, took to flouting their new skins and scaly tails. They embraced their new identity, wore t-shirts that said, rep and proud of it, scaled is sexy. And they were, after a fashion. You knew you had some reptiles in the neighborhood when you found egg mounds in the shrubs of your backyard. Besides the reptiles and whisperers, there were the furries, who actually constituted the greatest group of the evolved, also known as e-people. Furry became a catch-all term for anyone morphing into one or another odd mammal after their vaccine. Some were gray with rounded white ears and pink noses like overgrown koalas. Others had dark hair and huge eyebrows, tall pointed ears and curly tails, bright red lips and big canines. People took sides. The reps disdained the whisperers and scared them shitless, while the furries thought the reps were repulsive. Like, who would ever touch such a thing? Whisperers mostly got along with the furries, though privately they accused them of being a tad obnoxious and decidedly horny. Suburban neighborhoods enacted ordinance banning howling and promiscuity in city parks and jogging trails. Reptiles hissed and spat at furries, and whisperers would slink away when they stumbled upon them in the produce section of an Albertson or Costco, licking each other's necks and sniffing armpits and crotches. Reps hated norms, short for normals. And when their candidates lost elections, they burned libraries and elementary schools, claiming the kids were being brainwashed into conforming. Norms tried to fight back by banning them from restaurants and supermarkets due to the chaos they caused, but it backfired. Before long, the reps refused to obey laws anymore. The streets glittered with broken glass and the air howled with sirens. After the viral video of the Lincoln Park massacre in Manitou Springs, Colorado, in which a gang of reps in Ford F-150 pickup trucks opened fire on a group of whisperers having a picnic in a downtown park, people took sides. Facebook splintered into Facebook Blue and Facebook Red. A scaled Lives Matter rally in Tulsa, Oklahoma, peopled mainly by reptiles, with the mishmash of furries and norms counter-protesting, turned ugly. And before you knew it, Civil War II was in full swing. It didn't help that we weren't all 100% human anymore. Trans took on a whole new meaning. It wasn't brother killing brother or sister killing sister. You had reptiles stalking whisperers and norms taking up arms against furries. You might identify as a normal, but if you had to shave your back and trim your claws just to pass as norm, well, hard to know what to do or who to fight for. Like most people, my wife and I try to stay out of it. We figured it would all pass. Times have been crazy for years, and we were holding our breath like living in a drought and waiting for rain, staring up at the sky for signs, fork-tongued lightning strikes, mare's tail clouds in the morning, the smell of dust. Then Sabrina started to change too, but she wasn't a rat, never Sabrina. A sweet woman with curly red hair, pale skin, and freckles. If push came to shove, she was more of a let's bake them a loaf of banana bread kind of gal. One day she woke up early and I found her on the patio rubbing her forehead and blinking, saying, "Something's the matter with me. Well, I'm feeling kind of funny." Funny, haha? She shook her head. Funny as in weird. Touching her forehead, I felt a warm glow against the back of my hand. We wondered aloud if the virus was coming back or there was some new bug in the air. She told me she felt fine the night before. Now her mouth was dry and her ears felt like they were burning. "I'm not 100%, she added. "I don't know what it is, but something's off." I wondered if I cursed her. Years before, I bought her a tank top with the fanciful illustration of a unicorn riding a bicycle, leaving a trail of stars in its wake with the legend, "Be magical." That's silly, of course. Only the thing about the changes that follow the vaccine, they always seem to reveal your true self. If you had a tattoo of a skull or a bloody knife on your arm, or a Confederate flag maybe, odds are you'd end up as a rat. The gentle and good-hearted, they tended to go furry. When I pictured Sabrina in my mind's eye, I feel an odd, itchy sort of love coming on like carbonated bubbles fizzing beneath my skin. That look she gives me, that little smile she makes when I kiss her neck. So what if she's different? She's the one I love. I don't care what she changes into. A chitinous horn projecting from the peak of her forehead, big deal. Half horse, half woman, she's still Sabrina. And I'll stop there. Thank you very much.
I was muted, sorry. Thank you so much, Bill. Thank you so much. Does anybody, we're gonna hold questions until after the rest of the presentation. So please write down your questions if you have them for Bill. And then I'm gonna have the section editors talk about their process. And while I do that, I'm going to share my screen with you so that I can introduce you to the issue. So we're going to start with art. So that's going to be Ashley. Ashley, if you want to, hi there. You want to unmute yourself and get ready to talk to us?
Sure. Okay. So Renee Gladman, an artist and writer, once said that when she is writing, she is drawing, and when she is drawing, she is writing. I've never connected with a statement more. One cannot exist without the other, and they exist within each other to create a powerful, unique, and universal communication. In issue 29, our artists definitely utilize the duality of art and writing to create their own powerful languages. Our cover artist, Jenny Day, conveys the impact of humans on the environment. Delta NA are two artists connecting with each other through artistic language. Emily Rankin's pieces act like a person experiencing emotions in reality and dreams. Michelle McElroy provides landscapes of everyday life for the viewer's imagination to explore. Urmila Prahlad reveals images surrounded by texture. And finally, Elaine Parks creates ceramics with intense movement, though they are still.
Mm-hmm.
I would like to thank our founding editor, Trish, and our art faculty advisor, Rebecca Fish-Ewan, for their help and guidance. Rebecca Fish-Ewan encouraged me to strive for excellence, and Trish's mentorship has taught me to follow my instincts with confidence. Thank you both for this experience. It's taught me more about my own relationship with art than anything ever has. Finally, thank you to all the Superstition Review trainees and interns for a great semester, another beautiful magazine, and for sharing your visions. I hope you find your own hidden languages within the art of this issue.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Ashley. Okay, in fiction, we had 2 editors this session. And so I'm going to start alphabetically with Hannah Coleman.
Hello, let me pull that up here. I was honored to be one of the fiction editors for issue 29. The hundreds of fiction submissions never cease to inspire with their ideas, including those featured in this issue. For me, the power of fiction is its ability to remain with readers long after seeing a story for the first time. Our 6 fiction contributors this semester reinvent voice and form, and I can't wait to share their writing with you. Bradley Sides places a fantastical narrative in the unique form of a statewide test, a language many readers may know. Ryan Habermeyer takes readers into a chaotic, fable-fueled world of headless girls and French fries. Abby Barker adds absurdity to the reality of houselessness and a complicated relationship with in-laws. Nadine Rodriguez writes a moving piece on being both Cuban and queer, exploring the complexity of social and cultural identity. And of course, William Cobb gives readers a surreal experience of contemporary magic, complete with unicorns and reptiles, while unapologetically biting into questions of society today. In her piece on memory, Sally Angel Martin puts readers into the perspective of a woman who struggles with the realization that she can't forget anything she experiences. I'd like to thank all of these contributors for their hard work. I'd also like to extend a huge thanks to Trish, Kristen, and my fellow fiction editor, Daniel, for the dedication and enthusiasm throughout the semester. And with that, I hope you enjoy issue 29.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Hannah. And Daniel.
Hi, everyone. I'm sorry if my voice sounds a bit strange. I just got a cold, but when I discovered I was going to be a fiction editor, the news gave me wings. Writing, stories in particular, can also bestow wings to readers who feel weighed down by everyday life. As an editor, I sought to be transported, changed, and returned to my reading chair. In Abby Barker's zany tale of homelessness, a young couple learns, against their in-laws' wishes, that they can be happy living in a tent. Bradley Sides' brave, precocious student exposes a satanic monster in a state exam. Ryan Habermeyer reimagines an evil fairy tale mother in a modern fairy tale setting. Nadine Rodriguez explores the struggle to live one's own identity authentically. Sahali Angel Martin captures the tragedy of remembering too much. And William J. Cobb crowns the issue in the aftermath of Civil War II, where a man defends his wife from prejudice as she's transforming into a unicorn. I thank all these authors for their imagination and diligence in crafting these fabulous contributions. Working as a fiction editor has been such a rewarding experience. Thank you, Trish, Kirsten, and my fellow fiction editor, Hannah, for showing me the ropes as we read for issue 29. And congratulations again to the writers who found their stories a home.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Daniel. And now we move on to interviews with Veronica Gonzalez.
Hi, everyone. So growing up, I struggled to verbalize what I could feel, so I always looked up to those who could eloquently put their emotions into words. I was granted the privilege to learn more about the journey of doing so as the interview editor for this past issue. First and foremost, I'd like to thank the contributors. Thank you for sharing your words, your memories, your creations, your worlds with me. It has been such an honor to be sitting in your audience, and I can't wait for everyone to join in. Daryl Alejandro Holmes' poetry collection, Stepmotherland, is a political interweaving of social issues and personal experiences that encourages its reader to find their voice and step into the world. Quiet Night Think, a poetry and essay collection by Jillian Z, explores losing and finding oneself throughout motherhood, all while using the backdrop of her culture and history to paint vivid imagery. Catherine Davis's memoir, Aurelia, marries references to art, literature, and music with a breathtaking account of life, death, and the transition in between. A Tiny Upward Shove, a novel by Melissa Chadburn, explores themes of mercy and justice, following both protagonists and antagonists, and showcases representation of Filipino culture. Paul Tran's lyrical prose and vulnerability when it comes to breathing life into asphyxiating memories is heart-stirring in their poetry collection, All the Flowers Kneeling. Finally, Yinmi's Dream of the Divided Field, a poetry collection, is one that explores homes, bodies, and selves, and the act of discovering and accepting all three, no matter what form they come in. Lastly, thank you to both Trish and Sarah for entrusting me with this process, for challenging me to read closer than I ever had before, and for the never-ending support and guidance. I hope you all enjoy issue 29 as much as I do.
Thank you so much, Veronica. And I noticed that I need to set this to public. Good to know. Excellent work. Thank you so much. And now we'll move on to nonfiction, which was curated by Etosha.
What is unique yet simultaneously universal? I pondered this question as I read through a wonderful array of submissions this semester. Through my weekly readings, I discovered that one of the many answers to this question is emotion. Our emotions are unique, yet they act as a bridge to connect us. The harmonious balance of universality and personability present in these works is an element that I looked for in the nonfiction pieces featured in this issue. I'm honored to have the opportunity to collaborate with Patricia Murphy, Becky Burkett, and my peers to construct issue 29 for you all. Through careful articulation, Lori Blauner presents a vivid examination of humanity through the universal concept of being on the verge of emotions, spaces, aging, and more. Marcia Aldrich's lyricism appeals to the senses in a manner that is personal, but still relatable to the reader. Wendy Gann reflects on her life and politics in Hong Kong through incredible imagery that puts current history into perspective. Cindy Lee's meticulous examination of family and cultural differences is ubiquitous. And Howlin Shu explores the idea of navigating through spaces as a ghost through intertwining memories. I am proud to present 5 essays that represent what it means to be human by appealing to our innate need for social connection. My goal was to collect universal experiences for this collection, to use our shared experiences to demonstrate that our humanity and emotions transcend geographical boundaries, cultural differences, and more.
Excellent. Thank you so much. And with poetry, we have Patrick.
Hello, everyone. Before I get started, I just want to shout out, I see some of my contributors in the audience here for poetry. So when I think of poetry, I think of protests, activism, and endless possibilities. Poetry, line by line, has the capacity to ask difficult questions, force us past discomforts, and pose new ways of thinking. The poets that were selected for issue 29 do all those. Being granted the privilege of meticulously reading through the hundreds of submissions, I was in awe of the amazing poems that were presented to us and knew I had my work cut out as an editor. I knew I wanted to present a wide range of backgrounds, ways of thinking, perspectives, and I feel that we accomplished that here in issue 29 of Superstition Review. For issue 29, we have published 17 poets instead of the traditional 10, and this is a testament to the high quality of work that we were fortunate to have. The poems bring to our attention the tenderness and compassion one must have when caring for aging loved ones, to the wit and humor regarding self-love. The poetry in this issue also explores topics such as the effects that colonialism still has on Native lands and Native people, as well as queer identities, spiritual beliefs, and interesting poetic forms that work against expectations of what makes a poem a poem. Issue 29 is full of language that will sit with you long after you have finished reading. Lastly, I would like to thank Trish for her relentless support and mentorship she's provided to me, not just as an editor, but also as a person, a student. I've been fortunate to be here a year with her with Superstition, but also have had her as a professor in other classes. So it's always been great. And also would like to thank Mark for his thoughtful insights, wit, and intellect in teaching me how to be a better reader of poetry. So thank you, everyone.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, editors. I'm so grateful for you. And so now we have time for questions. So yes, Terry.
Sorry, I couldn't figure out where my camera button was. I wanted to ask William about his piece. I really loved it, and the ending though struck me. I don't know, it's kind of this melancholic hope. Is that what you were going for? What were you thinking about when you wrote that ending?
Well, you know, it's kind of a certainly a pandemic story to some degree, and the pandemic was still going on, and of course it is still going on. But we've reached the stage where I go through airports often, and just my last flight, I didn't have to wear a mask, and so that was the big deal, especially when you spend like 8 or 10 hours at an airport and on your flight, and you know, waiting and then in transferring flights or anything, it can get to be a real drag. So when I finished the story, we were still, I guess it was 2021 sometime, and yes, there was hope that this period of the pandemic would end, and the story had imagined a period after that. But also this, the cultural divisions that frankly, they kind of drive me crazy. And I gave the example of being in a coffee shop with people glaring at me. And in one case, I almost got into a fist fight with some guy in a black cowboy hat. And it would be absurd. What would we be fighting for? Because I don't want to get sick and I'm wearing a mask. That's all in the background of the story. And yes, the husband, wife, and the story hope that will all fade away at some point. And I certainly hope our particular moment in time will head towards more harmony at some point. It doesn't look like it's happening anytime soon.
Thank you.
Other questions for Bill or for interns? Or for other contributors? We have several of our poets here.
I have a question for Bill. So your story, Bill, has a lot of different elements in it, and some of the topics could be a little touchy for some people, like you said, the political undertones, and you're not even super political yourself. But during the revision process, was that something you considered and thought about? How to balance all these elements?
Well, I have a tendency to, I can often say the wrong thing. And I'd say be too honest in my opinions. So I am aware that you can say things that will hurt people's feelings in ways that you don't intend to. And I'm proud not to be the person who has had to make apologies for things I said on Twitter, because I'm not on Twitter and I don't say foolish things there. But sure, I don't want to hurt people's feelings, and when you write about political issues or they're in the background of a story, I'm sure there are people who would be, hey, I'm a reptile and I don't want to be categorized as such, but you can't please everybody. I have a question for the staff. How do you find time to do the work while you're students? And do many of you have TA-ships and things like that that complicate the life?
I can speak to that if you'd like. My name is Becky Burkett. I'm the faculty nonfiction editor and our editing consultant. And I have been doing this for 9 years. And I'm just happy to have the opportunity to say that it's an incredibly welcome moment in my week, my hour spent with the interns and with Trish and with this incredible work. There is a lot, but it just feels incredibly relevant and exciting, frankly. So it's one of the absolute high points of my career, of what I consider to be my vocation as a writer and an editor and a mentor and a reader, all those great things.
Well, I oversee the graduate students at Penn State's program. We have a 1-year MA process, and I know they're torn in different directions by their responsibilities. They teach, most of our grad students teach 1 class per term, but then they have, the seminars that they take, and I'm sure their time is completely filled up.
Bill, all of ours are undergrads. So, yeah.
Who have their own demands on times because
Have
they
their
also
own demands.
12 or 15 hours per term, I would think.
Exactly. Yeah. I would love to hear from a couple different folks about that. Veronica, would you be willing to speak? Because you took on additional work. I mean, you were required to interview 5 people and you interviewed 6. You did 1 Zoom interview.
Yeah, it was a lengthy process and it was hard to juggle at first, but I think after the first couple of weeks and like having our weekly meetings where we, discussed, creating interview questions and workshopping those, I think after those, I think Hannah mentioned in chat that it was like kind of a relief to have those meetings. And after like we stopped, like after those 7 weeks, I was like, oh, I have this open hour now. But yeah, I did really like that support. And I think that's what helped me balance like my responsibilities as a section editor and also like my responsibilities as a student, just having that support there.
Thank you, Veronica. Yes, and Hannah said in the chat, the way I run it, Bill, is for the first 7 weeks of the semester, we do a weekly meeting with, I had 13, so I had 13 weekly meetings. And then once everybody's ready to launch and fly, they're on their own. So Hannah said that she felt sad that we didn't meet anymore. I had the same feeling, but I have the interns send me a weekly report and I'm able to communicate with them that way.
This question, is this your last week of class?
Mm-hmm.
Well, you're all getting ready to have a break then for the summer, I hope. That's what I look forward to.
Exactly. Terry, you had a question for, oh no, she's dropped off. Oh, I'm so sorry, we missed her.
Oh, well. Okay.
You had a question for Dorcia, but I'm sorry, she's disappeared. Other questions, or does anybody else want to answer Bill's question about juggling?
Well, I can talk about that a little bit for me. I think it's kind of pretty similar to what you've already heard. Obviously, we have a lot going on. I'm a non-traditional student. I'm in my late 30s. I have a teenage son who's getting ready to graduate from high school. But this class, this internship itself is pretty much my break. Like, I'm excited to sit down and work on this. I have a lot of fun with it. I think being content coordinator, maybe there's a little bit less stress because I'm not making a whole lot of decisions. I'm just taking these beautiful pieces of work, getting to read them, and then have the creative fun of putting it together on a web page. And when I did get overwhelmed or lost or really struggled with something, Trish was always available. You know, you mentioned we had these first 7 meetings. Well, I had at least 3 more, but if I needed her, she was there. So that's really how I got through it.
Well, I would think it's probably good training for all of you that you know, you hear these kind of cliches about, oh, I'm going to you know, quit my job as a hedge fund manager and write the great American novel, which always seems so corny to me. Is, you know, that's not how it works. You're a busy person and you try to find something that will you know, provide a living while you do the things that you care most about. And if it's writing fiction, that's what I care most about. But you have to find the time to it. And at some point, you know, I think to myself, well, there can't be any excuses. I just have to find the time and get it done somehow. And push yourself to work that extra hour or go that extra mile. And I'm sure that's how an excellent journal like Superstition Review gets done, by all your work.
Wonderful. Any more questions or comments? All right, I'm going to end it there then. Bill, thank you again for joining us. And thank you so much to all of our contributors, our interns, our advisors. This has been just one of the most fun issues, I feel, to put together. Somebody said this in their closing comments about the course, that it almost felt like we were able to get back to pre-pandemic workload, relationships, engagement. And I really felt that. And it was so meaningful for me to work with all of you and to have such wonderful work to look at. Cindy, thank you for your essay. Brandel, thank you for your poem. So it's just been such a joy. And I thank you all.
And again, thanks to all of you.